Now, there were like two things from Scotland that I was familiarized as I was growing up as a child, and it was Scotch or Scottish whiskey and Sean Connery. This one's coming from Peter Ort. He's going to give me all of the breakdown of the culture shocks that an American might experience when moving to Scotland. All right, buckle up. Smash the like button. Let's go.
Today, I'm going to talk about 10 unexpected culture shocks that I experienced when moving from the United States to Scotland. Even though they kind of speak English here, it is a completely different world, and it's impossible to go into every single difference in one video. So let's just call this part one, because I'm sure I will make more videos in the future about things that you might find shocking if you're moving from the United States to Scotland or elsewhere in the UK. Let's start by saying hello. In the United States, whenever I was greeting someone, I would usually just say, "What's up?" or "Hi" or "Hello."
I was just about to say, what's up? Not if you're talking to someone that's a little bit older. It's more of the younger generation, the millennials say what's up, but yeah.
Whenever I was greeting someone, I would usually just say, "What's up?" or "Hi" or "Hello."
Hello.
Here in the UK, the standard greeting and pronunciation will vary a lot based on where it is you live.
Really?
Where I live, I would say the most common one is either "Hiya" or "All right." I've been here almost 4 years now.
All right?
And all right still kind of trips me up sometimes because in the States, if you ask if someone's all right, it's usually because they look like they're hurt or something like that. Whereas here, it's just a standard greeting and they're not particularly asking you if you're actually all right. The typical response would be, "All right, ta." Or if you're having a particularly bad day, you might just say, "Living the dream."
Living the dream. Yeah, that's more of like a positive thing. That's so weird that it's flipped like that. If you tell someone living the dream in English here, usually saying it's like a positive, like, "Hey, how you doing? Living the dream." Like you're having a good day. That doesn't really mean a bad day. That's nuts. Why is it flipped like that?
Or if you're having a particularly bad day, you might just say, "Living the dream." Number two is
so
that
weird.
Trash is everywhere. Or as you'd call it here, rubbish. Now, I'm not sure
Rubbish.
if it's actually more here or if it's just more visible because everything here is smaller and you're not kind of just trapped in your car the whole time driving everywhere like you would be in the States. But I at least feel like I see a lot more rubbish here. And I think there are, well, the two main reasons for it. I live on the West.
Looks beautiful where he's at right now. I must say that. You know, I feel like this is just he's seen both of it, and it just varies where you live in the States. You can live somewhere that there's a ton of trash in a trashy city, and also somewhere really nice. So I would imagine it's probably the same in Scotland. I don't know how much he's traveled around, but usually I hear that European cities are much more cleaner than America. So that's kind of a first.
Coast of Scotland, and we get a ton of wind. I would say that overall the worst part about our weather is the wind. And when it comes to rubbish, in the United States, your rubbish, everywhere I've ever lived or ever heard of, rubbish is collected once a week. Whereas here where I live, your rubbish bin is only collected once every 3 weeks. Same goes for your multiple recycling bins like your paper and cardboard bin, your plastic bin. All of them are basically alternating, and every 3 weeks you would have your bin collected.
You wouldn't be able to get away with that here. We're too much of consumers in America. Throw away way too much stuff. I go to the dump about once every 3 weeks to go recycle my cardboard and all my recyclables. But yeah, trash has to get picked up every week. It would be overflowing.
Constantly have rubbish in my garden that is not mine. And even though there are rubbish bins at, I would say, almost every bus stop and very regularly in town, they're almost always full when I see them. So they're not collected often enough. And then you add in the wind with those rubbish bins that are overflowing, well, you get the idea. If you're coming to the UK, especially if you have small children, just be aware. The rubbish is only collected every 3 weeks, at least in my council. And I'm sure you can imagine how bad it is when you have an entire bin completely full of dirty diapers or nappies, as they call them here, sitting outside in the summer heat for 3 weeks before being collected. It's not the most pleasant smell in the whole world. And number 3, tap water is amazing. In the United States, the tap water is for the most part disgusting and unsafe to drink.
You don't drink it.
I'm sure most of you have probably heard about what's happening with the water in Flint, Michigan, and what's been happening for at least a decade now. And while that might be an extreme scenario, I would say the vast majority of the US does not have safe drinkable tap water.
We put a reverse osmosis system under our sink that filters all of our water. But yeah, tap water it's a no-go. I mean, occasionally it's okay, but it's not something you should drink every day.
We'll just buy a whole bunch of plastic water bottles, or they'll use one of those like Brita filters for filtering all of their drinking water. When I first moved here, I bought a water filter because that's what I always had to use in the States. And I probably should be embarrassed by this, but it took me probably about almost 6 months before I really tried the tap water. And I wish I would have sooner because it is amazing. In the Glasgow area, the water is fairly soft.
Do you guys not put fluoride in your tap water? I have no idea.
Mineral content in the area. And I know Glaswegians would say it's the best tap water in the whole world. I couldn't really say if it's the best in the world, but it's definitely fantastic and the best that I've ever had. If you're moving somewhere like London, I've heard their water isn't as good, but it should at the very least be safe to drink, unlike in the United States, where the tap water frequently is dark and literally smells like mold. Number 4 is that you have to pay for bags at shops. You know how in Aldi you have to bring your own bags or pay for bags? Well, it's like that here in every single shop. If you forget to bring your own bag, that's fine, but they, by law, have to charge you a minimum of 10 pence per bag.
Yeah, I was used to this. I used to live in California. We had the same thing in California. I live in Tennessee now. We don't have to do that anymore, but we still use our own bags.
I would say, for the most part, you're looking at about 20 to 40 or 50 pence per bag. Maybe a pound if you're getting one of those really fancy reusable ones, but it is something to look out for when you move here. Also, I've seen some Americans talk in these Facebook groups about bringing over your own bags when you move. Don't save the space because they are incredibly cheap to buy your own.
Nice.
And you will ultimately end up like in the States where you have a drawer full of a whole bunch of old plastic bags. It'll be the same way here. You'll have a whole bunch of reusable bags from all the times that you went to the shop and forgot to bring it with.
They're expensive here, the reusable bags.
Sales tax is included, but not always. One of the most infuriating things about shopping in the United States is that you never know exactly how much you're going to have to pay for your items until you go check out. In the US, none of the prices include sales tax, and the sales tax amount can vary not just from state to state, but also from city to city. There are times where you could buy the exact same item that's the exact same price from 2 different stores that are literally across the street from each other and pay a different amount in each store because that street is the county line where it changes to a new city or something like that. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane the way that like the tax can fluctuate between cities, but if you want to live in a city that is very nice, is very clean, you're typically going to have either higher property taxes, higher sales tax, whatever type of tax it is. Maybe it's an income tax. So you can really choose if you want to live in a nicer area or if you want to live somewhere. I mean, unless it's like something like Chicago where the taxes are high and also crime and everything else is also very high. And yeah, it's just bad government policies, but yeah.
Food, baby products, hygiene products. In a lot of places in the States, they will still have the full amount of sales tax on them, whereas here they don't have any sales tax or VAT.
That's awesome.
Value-added tax. It's not really a huge issue anyways. You don't really notice it because here the price includes the sales tax, except when it doesn't.
That's so nice.
There are places here where the price does not include sales tax, but it is primarily places that are geared towards businesses. So things like online wholesalers for businesses or Costco don't include sales tax in their prices. Also, your car mechanic...
Wait, y'all have Costco? I didn't know you guys had Costco. That's crazy.
Might not include tax in his rates. My local mechanic charges 50 pounds an hour for his labor, but that's before tax, before VAT. So in reality, it's closer to 60 pounds an hour for his labor, which is fine, just something you have to be aware about.
Yeah, I would assume if it's like a service-based business or something like that, where, you know, the price is kind of like fluctuating on the actual work that's being done, you kind of have to add the tax on after. It's not going to be listed on just, hey, it's X amount for this service, because it could be more depending on any type of variable.
6. The green
I do like that it's
pump
included with
petrol,
everything.
And the black pump is diesel. Now, Americans spend way more time at the pump than people here, and that's primarily for two reasons. American vehicles get significantly worse fuel economy, even if you account for the difference in the size of a gallon here compared to the States. And also, Americans spend way more time in their vehicles because they have to drive everywhere, so they go a lot more miles in their cars than people would here. In the United States, diesel-powered cars are almost non-existent. The only diesel-powered cars that I've ever heard of in the US would be like the Volkswagen TDI vehicles. And I think they stopped selling those a couple years ago because of the whole diesel emissions issue that probably everyone knows about now. Other than that, pretty much the only vehicles that would be diesel-powered would be your big 18-wheelers or lorries, and then some pickup trucks would use diesel. Regardless of how many people use diesel, though, I would say everyone...
You know, I wonder if that's because we were talking about cars maybe a couple of weeks ago, gas, and somebody commented and said that that you guys in Europe have a lot of larger, like Ford trucks, maybe not so many Chevrolet, I think he said, but you do have some American cars, and they're usually the big trucks that you use. Not so many American small, mid-sized cars, but the trucks are there, and I wonder if that's why here most of the diesel vehicles that we have are bigger trucks. They probably just don't want to have to constantly switch, you know, between countries. So they're just make them all diesel. I would assume that's why that happens.
Should know that in the States, the green pump is for diesel and the black pump is for gasoline or petrol. Here,
not always.
It's the exact opposite. I haven't made this mistake, but I'm sure it's possible. When you come here, make sure that you double check the labeling for the pump, because you don't want to grab diesel instead of petrol accidentally when you're going to fill up at the pump. Number 7 is the lack of sunlight. Now, Scotland is quite a bit further north than the continental United States, and growing up in Oklahoma, of course, days were longer in the summer and shorter in the winter, just like pretty much everywhere else. But when I moved here, I didn't quite realize just how much of a difference it would be and how extreme the differences would be. And that's one thing I'm not sure if I'll ever quite get used to. Winter in Scotland can be incredibly hard, especially depending on what type of work you do, because you can feel like it is constantly dark outside the entire time. In the dead of winter, the sun doesn't come up until like 9 a.m. and it starts getting dark at around 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. So
that's crazy. I had no idea.
It will be dark when you're going to work, and it will be dark when you're coming home from work. But on the flip side, summers are fantastic. Where I live in the dead of summer, even after midnight, you can still see a tiny little bit of light on the horizon. Number 8,
that would be
daylight savings time is on a different day.
No way. You guys have daylight savings time too in Scotland? I thought that was just a US thing. I had no idea. I learned something in every single video I do.
Time difference. Depending on where your family and friends are, even if they're on the East Coast, it's still going to be a 5-hour difference when you want to talk to them. One silver lining with this is that daylight savings time is actually on a different day here than it is in the United States. Our time just switched over last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Time kind of blends together for me. But there was a period of about 2 weeks where the time difference was 1 hour less. So people on the East Coast would have only been 4 hours behind instead of 5. So that's kind of nice. Number 9, they have milkmen.
Milkmen. All right. That's interesting.
New York City, I wouldn't be surprised if they exist, but at least the part of the country that I lived in, milkmen were something from the movies from the 1950s or something like that. You didn't actually get your milk delivered. Judging by the way things are in the United States, even if it did exist, it would be incredibly expensive. A couple weeks after I moved here, I got a knock on my door from a salesman from the local farm just down the street, a couple miles. And ever since then, I have had a milkman. Well, I say milkman because that's what the term would be in the States. I'm not sure if it's actually a man that delivers it. All I know is that every Monday and Thursday morning when I wake up, there is milk sitting on my doorstep.
So we actually have to go and pick up our milk. We do it once probably like once a week. We rotate between me and my brother. You can buy milk in the stores. We just don't buy that milk. We buy milk locally. I wish we had a milkman though, somebody that came and dropped it off. When you're spending like $7 or $8 on a couple of gallons of milk, it doesn't really make sense for them to drive all the way out here though.
And the best part about it is, not only is it convenient and easy, it's not expensive. The amount that I pay to have my milk delivered only works out to be like 30 or 40 pence more expensive per container than if I were to make the 30-minute round trip drive to Aldi and get the exact same thing. That's crazy. And the last unexpected culture shock that I'll talk about today is realizing just how stressed I was unknowingly from the threat of violence in the United States.
Well, that's kind of like a state of mind thing, not really a real factual thing, but
thought that I was fully aware of just how dangerous it was, but I don't think I truly realized it until after I left. There might be a better analogy to use, but you know that analogy where if you put a frog into a pan of room temperature water and then slowly bring it to a boil, it won't realize the danger that it's in until it's too late. I think that you can only truly realize the danger in the United States until that threat of danger is removed.
Maybe.
Here in Scotland, I never have to worry about my kids getting shot when they go to school. I'm not going to have to grab my kids and run out of the grocery store because someone walked in with a gun, or cut a coffee shop date short because someone came in and was sitting across the room with a gun strapped to their hip. Here in Scotland, security guards...
Dude, where was this guy living? Was he living like, I wonder where he moved from. He had to have lived in like a big city or something. I don't ever worry about anyone getting shot ever. It never crosses my mind. But I would imagine that Scotland is probably, I'm 100% sure that it's safer. So, hey, if it gives you that peace of mind, I'm all for it. I want safety. Something like that just never really crosses my mind though. It's very safe where I live.
Can't have guns. And even the police don't carry guns unless they're part of the like armed response unit, which is basically our version of SWAT. Nowhere is perfect, but life here in Scotland is infinitely safer than in the United States.
All right, that was a really, really good video. I enjoyed that a lot. A couple of interesting facts that I had no idea about Scotland. I kind of thought there was going to be a little bit more there. Some things that I already knew on a like surface level, but still interesting. Appreciate the recommendation that came in. And that's it for this one, you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you watching. Peace.